Hello there, boxing fans around the world. Thanks for joining me once again here on Talkin Fight for another episode of Boxing News today. It being beginning of the week, we have a variety of different fights to report on. Happened over the weekend, starting off with the big fight that happened in Denmark. WBO World Bantamweight Champion Dina Thorsland successfully defended her title for a second time when she outclassed New York's Carreno. The 28-year-old, who now holds an 18-0 professional record, won in front of her home fans with scores of 190, 99-91, and 99-91. All right. Thorsland, however, wants a massive unification fight next. And guess who she's challenging? This one knocked my socks off. Quote, immediately after her impressive win on Saturday, and I'm quoting boxing247.com here, she turned to the other bantamweight title holders, with Thorsland having spoken about the prospect of a fight with Ebony Bridges, the IVF champion, in the build-up. It would be amazing to fight Ebony, Thorsland said, but the result would not come as a surprise to people because I would win because I am better than her. Wow. There you go. There's something to chew on. All right. Across the pond, let's go over to Costa Mesa, California, at the hangar. Back on April 9th, we saw Michaela Mayer, who grew up in Southern California and then left to pursue a boxing career. And after an Olympic berth, nearly 5 years as an unbeaten pro, pair of world-class titles, Mayer finally authored her triumphant championship homecoming. Mayer bested former world champion Jennifer Hahn by unanimous decision to retain her WBO and IVF junior lightweight world titles this past Saturday. It was a world title, third title defense for Mayer, who's now 17-0 with 5 knockouts, as her first as a unified world champion. She did everything but force a stoppage, outlanding Hahn by more than 3-1 clip, 192-63. Early in the fight, Mayer busted open Hahn's nose with a right hand and used a stiff upper jab to keep Hahn on the defense. Mayer said, I feel like I did a lot of good things in there. Her movement, I think, is what she does best, and it throws you off. She gets her spacing in a little bit, so I had to throw her off and stay behind the jab. Coach Al Mitchell reminded me to stay behind the jab and set the right hand up. She would duck sometimes and make me miss. I started to go to the body. All in all, she's a tough, durable girl. That's why we chose her for this fight. We knew she'd push me, but I feel like I did well. Having won, I would say she did do well. And she goes on to continue. I've been pretty clear that I want to go undisputed at 130. Alicia Baumgartner and Hoi Min Choi, I've been calling them out. I want either fight, but if they're not going to give me that fight in a timely fashion, I'm game to go up and challenge the winner of the Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor fight. So, lots of news, as I said, to report on today, and starts off with a couple of decent challenges. Speaking of challenges, Triple G, one of my favorites, Gennady Golovkin, became the new WBA middleweight super champion after knocking out Ryota Murata in a war held this past Saturday over in Saitama, Japan. The Kazakh, who was already the IVF champion, snatched the belt from the Japanese and is now the unified 160-pound monarch after stopping it in the 9th round with a hair-raising right hand. However, the fight was not easy for Triple G, who found himself up against a brave and motivated puncher who came out on equal footing. The Kazakh had to deal with the jab of a taller opponent and the right hand of Murata that swelled Golovkin's cheekbone early. The 40-year-old veteran stuck to his plan, which is to move forward, throw a lot of punches, and be accurate with a straight punch. He took control of the fight as the rounds went on. Now, a little sidebar to this story involving Mr. Golovkin. Courtesy of another report. In a show of respect, Triple G went to Murata's dressing room after knocking him out to give him back his WBA middleweight title that he had won off him at the arena. Murata gave Golovkin major problems in the first round, as I've just explained, in their 160-pound IVF and WBA unification fight. And Golovkin made the adjustments necessary to go on to win the victory. But it goes on to say here in this particular article, inside the ring after the fight, Golovkin gave Murata his robe, which he put on and was still wearing inside the dressing room when Triple G went in there to give him back his title. It's unclear whether this means that Golovkin doesn't want to keep Murata's WBA title or it was just a symbolic gesture. If Golovkin chooses to reject the WBA title, it would fall vacant or perhaps even be removed by the sanctioning body. By way of contrast, this author happens to say Murata looked better in that fight than Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, Rocky Fielden, and Callum Smith. So the super middleweight division looks to be quite healthy and quite rambunctious right now with that victory by Triple G. Moving along, in the welterweight division, which is gaining in popularity as well as these fighters rise through the ranks. Over in Las Vegas this past weekend at Virgin Hotels, two super welterweight contenders, Sebastian Fundora and Erickson Lubin, delivered an instant classic as Fundora captured the interim WBC super welterweight title via technical knockout after 9 rounds in a Showtime main event, which was held at the theater in Virgin Hotels as part of the Curio collection by Hilton. Fair enough. And it was presented, by the way, by Premier Boxing Champions. In a bout that lived up to pre-fight hype, both men hit the canvas and showed tremendous fortitude to recover from knockdowns and continue to deliver massive blows. It was the 6'6" Fundora who struck first with a sweeping right uppercut that sent Lubin to the mat during the final seconds of round 2. Despite appearing on shaky legs after round 2, Lubin recovered in the final minute of round 3 to bloody Fundora with a series of headshots. Lubin won 3 of the first 4 rounds on all 3 scorecards, buoyed by a bruising body attack against the taller opponent. However, in round 7, Fundora and Lubin engaged in a surefire round of the year candidate as both men took serious damage. Fundora's nonstop volume began to show dividends on Lubin's face, which started to swell up from the damage during the frame. However, Lubin showed championship mettle by turning the tide with an unrelenting series of hooks that eventually forced Fundora to take a knee, the first time he's been down as a pro. After rising to his feet after the knockdown, Fundora recovered to outland Lubin 26-12 and 28-3 in rounds 8 and 9 respectively. Overall, Fundora outlanded Lubin 255 to 149, while Lubin held a 40% to 36% advantage in punch accuracy. Lubin had early success with his jab, landing 18 over the first 3 rounds, but only connected on 15 throughout the rest of the action. After a one-sided round number 9, and with the swelling continuing to grow around Lubin's face, his trainer, Kevin Cunningham, asked referee Mora to stop the fight, officially ending the action via technical knockout after 9 rounds. At the time of stoppage, Lubin led 85 to 84 on 2 of the judges' cards, with the third judge scoring the fight 85-85. I think it was a good decision for Kevin Cunningham to stop the fight, said Fundora. His face shifted from round 1 to round 9. It completely morphed, and there was a lot of blood coming out. He's a tough fighter. He was in the game the whole time, but there's no need to get hurt that much. Lubin, by the way, was taken to the UMC Trauma Center for further observation post-fight. For Fundora, he puts himself in position to face the winner of the undisputed 154-pound title rematch between Jermel Charlo and Brian Castano, taking place on May 14th. He said, I see Charlo winning that fight against Castano. I feel like he's going to be too strong for the second time. If Castano wins, that's great too. I just want to go after all of them. This is the interim belt, so I want the world champion title. I want the real deal. Over at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. And if ever you've been to San Antonio, you'll find that is a great city, fun city to be in. Down in Texas, April 9th, San Antonio was treated to fireworks at the Alamo Dome when the undefeated boxing superstar Ryan Garcia, who's now 22-0 with 18 knockouts, out of California, made a triumphant return to the ring against the top-rated Emmanuel Tago, also called the Game Boy, who fights out of Accra, Ghana, whose record is now 32-2 with 15 knockouts. The 12-round lightweight fight featured a strong performance from Garcia to a crowd of 14,459 people as he landed an early power punch that sent Tago to the canvas in the second round. Once both fighters found the rhythm, Garcia systematically broke down the Ghanaian boxer as he landed precise punches to the head and body. Tago tried his best to keep his distance using an ineffective jab. In between rounds, I was just telling him, you've got to go to track him down, said Joe Gosen, trainer to Ryan Garcia. He's not going to engage you. You just have to keep the pressure on. He's a tough kid. He has only one loss in the beginning of his career. He's been on a winning streak for a very long time. He has a great chin. He was in great shape, and he came here to win. He didn't come here to lose, but after a while, he was not trying to win. He was just trying to survive. And Ryan was then trying to track him down and trying to catch him. Tahoe was not being very agreeable, and he didn't engage in the fight a lot. Who will we fight next? I'll take a back seat on all of that. Hey, don't come to the gym and tell me how to train my guys, and I don't go to their office and tell them who to make fights. When they throw something at me, I say, that sounds good to me, and we go to work. We're going to talk to Joe DeBell and see who's next, said Peter Kahn, manager of Emmanuel Tago. Emmanuel went 12 rounds with Ryan. Emmanuel was out of the ring longer than Ryan, so I think that's a victory. I think we learned that Emmanuel has a chin, and he took some big shots tonight. It was a good fight, and Ryan performed very well. By the way, in the co-main event of the night, the resilient King Gabriel Rosada, who's 26-15-1, 15 knockouts out of Philadelphia, was defeated by Shane Mosley Jr., who's now 18-4 with 10 knockouts, and he fights out of Pomona, California. It was a majority decision in a 10-rounder, and therefore Mosley captures the WBA Continental Americas Super Middleweight title. Elsewhere, we go down the road to Zonky's Auditorium in Tijuana, Mexico, where Mexican contender Damian Sosa, who's 20-1 with 11 knockouts, defended his WBO Latino Super Welterweight Championship with an impressive knockout victory against Jesus Vega, who's now 22-3-1 out of Sinaloa, Mexico, in the main event of the Toscano Boxing Promotion Show. As I said, that was taking place at Zonky's Auditorium in Tijuana. That's in Baja, California, Mexico. Sosa ended the bout at 135 of the third round, and once again, Dom demonstrated his desire to have a world title opportunity in the near future. It was a good fight, said Damian Sosa. I think I controlled the entire fight. In the second round, he landed a hard shot on me, but aside from that, I felt I'd control the entire bout, and that's what I was doing and what my corner was telling me to do. I think we all dream one day of being able to fight for a world title. I prepare myself every day for that. And I know that the opportunity will present itself one day because I will look for it. I'll continue growing and waiting for that opportunity. Right on. Speaking of Mexico, we're going to pop along to the Metepec Fairgrounds. Very complete and effective boxing from Ángel Lardizabal, who won the WBC's flyweight elimination match, convincingly defeating former champion of the world, Nicaraguan Christopher Rosales. That was back on Saturday night. Ayala, 14-0-0, as he's known, remains undefeated and was masterful against a rival with great experience, namely Rosales, who's now 32-6-0, must be 32-6-1, with 21 knockouts, who sought to counterattack and force the fight. But the Mexican executed his fight plan to perfection and landed an appreciably higher volume of punches. During the same event, Luis Ramirez, who's now 10-0 with 10 knockouts, extended his perfect record in just 1 minute, 22 seconds, demonstrating his power, knocking down Brando Romero twice and knocking him out eventually. Romero had to be taken out of the ring on a stretcher and taken to a hospital for tests required for this type of knockout. Fortunately, he is okay. With this victory, Zerdito Ramirez wins the WBC Youth Super Bantamweight Championship. Let's take a look at things to come here. Connor Goodchild, for you UK fans, is gunning to ensure that his belated birthday present comes in the form of another pro win. The sequel to his debut, when BCB Promotions returned to the East Side Rooms in Birmingham, with this fight set for not next Friday, but April 29th, a few weeks down the road. The Brummies paid debut came on the home turf as recently as February 13th on another BCB offering at the H Suite in Edgbaston, where he outpointed Paul Cummings. Welterweight Goodchild fights out of Kings Norton, eased to comprehensive point success despite an absence of 6 years from competitive action. through a 40 to 36 whitewash scoreline in that previous fight. So I guess English fans are looking to his entering the ring once again on April 29th. Now, speaking of the welterweights, if I'm not mistaken, we have some news here. After a busy weekend of fighting, fans around the world equally await one of the most exciting fights of the year so far, the welterweight unification bout coming up between Errol Spence Jr., who's 27-0, and Yordenis Ugas, who's 27-4. And that's set to take place over in Arlington, Texas. However, quietly across the pond, a fight featuring the young, unbeaten, and hungry welterweight prospect Conor Benn, who's 20-0, is also set to take place at the AO Arena in Manchester, England. This is where Conor Benn will take on the South African veteran Chris Van Heerden, who's 28-2-1. And this is where Conor Benn, by the way, is putting up his WBA Continental Welterweight title on the line. Now, this all gets a bit interesting because we also have Statonias versus Butiev. Another relatively obscure fight that many boxing media outlets overlook is also set to happen over in Arlington this weekend. As a former Olympian and celebrated amateur fighter in Europe, the undefeated Lithuanian native Imantas Stantonis, 13-0, is set to fight against Russian fighter Rajab Butiev, 14-0, for the WBA regular welterweight title. This fight is set as one of the undercards preceding the main event, but as a matter of importance, it is enough to stand alone as the main card of an episode of Showtime Championship Boxing that isn't pay-per-view. Let's just float down the story just a little bit, because the author of this, the author is Makui Zhang, and this is in Boxing News 24, by the way. You can go there to their website to have a quick look at this. Check this conclusion out. The welterweight division might not be one of the most stacked divisions today, which I completely disagree with, but it is still a hot division, which I agree with, filled with talented prospects and champions alike. So I'm a little confused with this opening remark. This Saturday would not only mark a new beginning with the crowning of a new unified champion, but also set the path for the biggest matchups in the division's future. Well, that is quite an understatement and quite a concluding statement. But we'll see what happens to Stenios, Span, and Spence, all these guys. Good matchups all around. Alrighty, let's move on quickly for the final story of the day, featuring the Olympic Qualification System that's just been announced. This is for the Paris Games taking place in 2024, even though it's quite yet undecided whether or not Olympic boxing will continue in 2028. Anyway, with respect to the qualification system that's just been announced and approved by the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, who defines these categories, there will now be 124 places for 7 events on the men's side and 124 places for 6 women's events. The IBA has confirmed most of the IBA's 13 men's and 12 women's weight categories into the respective Olympic categories. The Olympic qualification period will run from January 1st, 2023 to May 31st, 2024. Qualification will take place in 4 phases and will see the finalists of the IBA men's and women's world championships in 2023. The top fighters in the IBA and world Olympic rankings, and the winners of the last chance Olympic qualifying tournament. The OQS has been designed to be the fairest ever. Said Umar Kremlov, the IBA president, as an international association, we have had to take many viewpoints into consideration when formulating this system. I am sure that after months of discussion and consultation, we have created a qualification system that provides a fair and equal chance to all would-be Olympic boxers. Importantly, it will be based on success at IBA events. While developing the system, the IBA worked closely with the IOC Sports Department and IBA various committees and the International Continental Confederations, athletes, and the host country's own national federation. Said the IBA Secretary General Ashton Kovac, he said, We are very happy with the Olympic qualification system that's been approved. It's very important to us that the system provided the athletes with flexibility as well as multiple opportunities to qualify for the competition. And we are determined to ensure fair fights at the qualifying events on the road to Paris. Well, there you have it, boxing fans. That's all the news fit to print. Thank you for joining me on Boxing News today. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you again later this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Time when I join Mike Orr at 4, and Cedric Ben will be in the den for Knuckle Up. Cheers.